a family reunion, a dead body in the kitchen, and now, a decision that could tear a marriage apart. If you thought you knew where the Metcalf family story was heading on Coronation Street, think again, because what's happening on the cobbles right now is one of the darkest and most emotional storylines the soap has produced in years, and it's only just getting started. Hello, and welcome back to the channel, your home for everything happening in Weatherfield. Today we're diving deep into one of the biggest and most talked about storylines currently unfolding on Coronation Street, the shocking murder arrest that has rocked Tim and Sally Metcalf's world, and the huge decision the couple now find themselves facing because of it. If you're a fan of the show, you'll already know that things have been building toward this moment for weeks. If you're just catching up, don't worry, we're going to break down everything you need to know, from how this all started to where it could be heading next. Let's set the scene. For longtime viewers, Tim Metcalf, played by Joe Duttine, has become one of the most beloved characters on the cobbles. He's Sally's devoted husband, a cab driver with a sharp sense of humor, and someone who has been through his fair share of drama over the years, from health scares to family feuds with his mother Elaine and her murderous ex-partner Stephen Reed. Sally, played by Sally Dinover, is one of the longest-running characters in the show's history, known for her resilience, her occasionally snobbish streak, and her deep loyalty to her family. Together, Tim and Sally have weathered storm after storm, and their marriage has often been used by the show's writers as an emotional anchor point during some of Weatherfield's most chaotic chapters. So, when a new character entered the picture a few weeks ago, few viewers could have predicted just how devastating the fallout would be. That character is Richie, Tim's long-lost cousin, played by former Hollyoaks actor Nathan Sussex. Richie's arrival brought a wave of nostalgia and reconnection for Tim, who was thrilled to spend time with a relative from his past and get to know the man Richie had become. The two bonded quickly, reminiscing about their shared history and rebuilding a relationship that had faded over the years. On the surface, it looked like a heartwarming subplot, a chance for Tim to reconnect with family and for the show to explore a new dynamic on the street. But Coronation Street rarely lets a happy reunion stay happy for long, and this storyline was no exception. As Richie spent more time in Weatherfield, cracks began to show. It emerged that his marriage to his wife, Rachel, was far from stable. Richie began confiding in Tim about serious problems at home, hinting that things between him and Rachel had become deeply strained. When Rachel discovered that Richie had been spending nights out with Tim under questionable circumstances, tensions escalated. She threw Richie out of their home, and he turned up on the Metcalf's doorstep with a bag in hand, looking for somewhere to stay. This is where things started to spiral. Tim, ever the soft touch when it comes to family, convinced a reluctant Sally to let Richie stay with them, at least for a little while. But as the days went on, Sally's unease grew, and she eventually insisted that Richie needed to leave and sort things out with his wife. Richie claimed he'd stay with a friend in Liverpool instead, and Tim, still hopeful that his cousin's marriage could be saved, urged him to go home and fight for his relationship with Rachel. Then came the twist that changed everything. Tim discovered that Richie had left his wallet behind at the house, and being the good-natured character he is, he decided to drive over and return it personally. What he found when he arrived at Richie and Rachel's home was nothing short of horrifying. Richie answered the door with blood on his shirt, behaving erratically and clearly in a state of shock. Sensing that something was seriously wrong, Tim pushed past him and stepped inside, only to discover Rachel's lifeless body in the kitchen. In a state of panic and disbelief, Tim immediately called the police, setting off a chain of events that would consume the Metcalf household for weeks to come. Since that gut-wrenching discovery, Coronation Street has been building this storyline with real intensity, and the most recent episodes have pushed it into devastating new territory. Detective Sergeant Lisa Swain, who has become a familiar face on the show thanks to her recurring police investigations on the cobbles, delivered the news that fans had been dreading. Richie has officially been charged with Rachel's murder. During the investigation, Tim found himself in an agonizing position, having to hand over information that could be used against his own cousin, including details about how Richie had described being frightened of his wife and struggling in their marriage. Despite everything he's seen and heard, Tim has remained fiercely loyal to Richie, refusing to believe that his cousin is capable of cold-blooded murder. He's convinced himself, at least for now, that if Richie really did kill Rachel, it must have been an act of self-defense rather than a premeditated act of violence. Richie himself has echoed this claim, insisting to police that he acted in self-defense during a confrontation that spiraled out of control. Whether that defense holds up, and whether viewers are meant to believe it, remains one of the biggest open questions hanging over this storyline. But the murder charge is only one piece of this unfolding tragedy. There's another innocent party caught in the middle of all of this, Richie and Rachel's young daughter, Lucy. Overnight, this child has lost both of her parents. Her mother is dead, and her father is behind bars awaiting trial for her murder. It's a heartbreaking situation, and the show has not shied away from exploring just how devastating this trauma is for a young girl who had no say in any of it. Lisa Swain informs Tim and Sally that Lucy has been placed into emergency foster care while the investigation continues, offering the couple some reassurance that she's being looked after during an unimaginably difficult time. That reassurance, however, doesn't last. When Lucy's foster placement unexpectedly collapses, Tim is faced with an agonizing choice, and in a moment that fans are already buzzing about, he makes a huge decision without consulting Sally first. Driven by guilt, family loyalty, and a desperate need to do something to help, Tim offers to take Lucy in and let her live with them at number 4. It's an act rooted in kindness, but it's also an enormous, life-altering decision made unilaterally, without giving his wife any say in a choice that will affect their entire household. This is where the emotional core of the storyline really kicks into gear. What starts as a well-meaning gesture from Tim quickly proves to be far more complicated and painful than either he or Sally anticipated. Lucy, understandably, is deeply traumatized. She's lost both her parents in the space of a single, horrific night, and now she's been placed with relative strangers in an unfamiliar home. She struggles to settle in, becomes withdrawn, and is haunted by nightmares. The strain of caring for a grieving, traumatized child begins to take a visible toll on the Metcalf household, and cracks start to appear in Tim and Sally's marriage as a result. Things come to a head when Lucy, overwhelmed by everything she's going through, runs away from the house entirely. Tim and Sally are left frantic and terrified, forced to confront the reality that they may have taken on more than they can realistically handle. In one particularly raw and emotional argument, Tim lashes out at Sally, blaming her for the situation and suggesting that if Richie had simply been allowed to stay with them in the first place, Rachel might still be alive. It's a devastating, unfair accusation born out of grief and guilt, and it speaks to just how much pressure this situation has put on their relationship. As if that weren't enough, Lucy is later found alone in Victoria Street, adding yet another layer of fear and heartbreak for the couple as they scramble to protect a child who is spiraling further and further into distress. Naturally, this storyline has ignited a huge amount of discussion among Coronation Street's fanbase. Social media has been buzzing with viewers sharing their reactions to the twist, with many praising the show for tackling such a heavy and realistic topic with genuine emotional weight. Fans have been particularly vocal about Joe Dutton and Sally Dinaver's performances, with viewers commending both actors for bringing real depth and vulnerability to Tim and Sally as they navigate this crisis. There's also plenty of debate happening online about Richie himself. Some viewers are sympathetic to his claims of self-defense, while others are convinced there's more to the story than he's letting on, and that the truth behind Rachel's death may be far darker than anyone currently realizes. There's also been considerable chatter about young Lucy's storyline and how the show is choosing to depict childhood trauma and grief. Many viewers have praised the sensitivity with which this angle is being handled, noting that it adds real emotional stakes to what could have otherwise been a fairly standard soap murder mystery. Entertainment outlets covering the soap have echoed this sentiment, highlighting the storyline as one of the standout dramatic arcs of the year for Coronation Street, and pointing to it as a strong example of the show using a shocking crime plot to explore deeper themes around family, loyalty, and the long shadow that trauma casts over everyone it touches. So, what does all of this mean going forward for Tim, Sally, and everyone caught up in this storyline? At the heart of it, this is shaping up to be one of the toughest tests of Tim and Sally's marriage that the show has ever put them through. Their relationship has survived affairs, health scares, and outside interference before, but taking in a traumatized child under such tragic circumstances, without any real preparation or agreement between the two of them, is a different kind of challenge entirely. Fans will be watching closely to see whether this experience pulls the couple closer together as they learn to support one another through crisis, or whether the resentment and blame already surfacing between them signals cracks that could threaten the marriage in the longer term. For Richie, the road ahead looks bleak, with a murder trial looming and his own daughter now living with relatives while he awaits his fate behind bars. There's plenty of speculation among fans about what the trial could reveal. Will evidence emerge that supports his claim of self-defense, painting Rachel in a very different light than viewers have seen so far? Or will the investigation uncover something far more sinister, revealing that Richie is not the man Tim believes him to be? Given Coronation Street's history of slow burn reveals and dramatic courtroom twists, it wouldn't be surprising if the show has more shocking revelations still to come before this story reaches its conclusion. And then there's Lucy, whose future remains genuinely uncertain. Will she settle into life with Tim and Sally and become a more permanent fixture on the cobbles, or will her ongoing struggles push the family to accept that they simply aren't equipped to give her the support she needs? Either direction could open up compelling new stories, whether that's watching the Metcalf family grow and heal together, or watching them face the heartbreaking reality of admitting they've taken on more than they can manage. Whatever happens, it's clear that the show intends to keep exploring the emotional fallout of Rachel's death for some time to come, rather than treating it as a quick, tidy plot device. To sum everything up, Coronation Street has delivered one of its most emotionally charged storylines in recent memory with the murder of Rachel and the arrest of Richie. What began as a heartwarming family reunion between Tim and his long-lost cousin has spiraled into tragedy, leaving Tim wrestling with loyalty and disbelief, Sally forced to pick up the pieces of a decision she never agreed to, and an innocent young girl caught in the middle of it all, grieving two parents in the most horrific way imaginable. With a murder trial on the horizon, a traumatized child trying to find her footing, and a marriage under more strain than it's faced in years, this storyline shows no signs of slowing down anytime soon. That's everything we know so far about this gripping and heartbreaking Coronation Street storyline. As always, the show promises even more twists in the weeks ahead, and we'll be right here to break it all down for you as soon as new details emerge. Let us know in the comments what you think is really going on with Richie, whether you believe his claim of self-defense, and how you think Tim and Sally's decision about Lucy is going to play out. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so you never miss another Coronation Street update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.